Well, of course, it seems like every day there's a new angle to the story of the Paramount proposed takeover and merger of Warner Brothers. Just to catch you up really quick, Paramount got hit with a restraining order, a temporary one, so they couldn't close the deal with Warner Brothers. They were going to have a hearing after 2 weeks to see if that restraining order would become permanent until the end of the trial. And Paramount said, you know what? We know we're going to lose, so we'll just forego that hearing and we'll just go to trial. So they're now going to go to trial, which is, of course, going to kick off a ticking penalty fee to the shareholders of Warner Brothers to the tune of $6 to $7 million a day that Paramount is going to have to start paying out to the Warner Brothers shareholders after the end of September. Now, I believe, and there are a lot of different theories out there, and Paramount itself is saying, no, we really believe we can win the case. But I believe Paramount has quietly behind the scenes given up. And I think now they are just now saving face and buying themselves time to find an out and another option. I might be right and I might be wrong about that. This is just me guessing, but it is what it is. But there's a new angle to this that I have to admit I was not aware of. In the midst of all this stuff going on with Paramount agreeing not to close the deal until after the case is solved, you have to understand that this case is probably going to stretch well into 2027. And if the case solves, it can still then go to appeals, which could take us near to the end of 2027, maybe even later. But here's the really interesting wrinkle in all this that I wasn't aware of until before. Coming to us from reporting in The Puck. The Puck writes this, and then there is June 4th, 2027. Assuming antitrust approval is the only obstacle left, June 4th, 2027 is the day that David Zaslav, the head of Warner Brothers, acquires the contractual right to walk away from the transaction and collect a $7 billion regulatory termination fee. Which raises an obvious question, writes Puck. If Paramount has agreed to wait until as late as June to close, how can it guarantee enough runway for meaningful appellate review if the judge ultimately blocks the deal? The answer, at least in Paramount's view, is that the negotiations over the litigation schedule don't end with the stipulation. Paramount is pushing for a November trial, but the state's attorneys are pushing for a trial starting next year. But Paramount believes it has good cause for the earlier date by agreeing to postpone the preliminary injunction fight. It has demonstrated good faith with the judge. In other words, while the public is focused on ticking fees and closing delays, Paramount has its eye on two different timelines. Is that bet worth it? $1 billion in ticking fees, another 6 months or more in limbo, and the opportunity cost of leaving Warner Brothers Discovery frozen in place? I'm still unconvinced. The strategy assumes a relatively orderly path to the trial and appeal with no unpleasant surprises along the way. Whether deteriorating business conditions, debt pressures, or new complications that inevitably arise when a deal spends another year under glass. There's an ancient proverb that says this, guys. Only the fool believes his path has no stone. The great modern philosopher, Mike Tyson, paraphrased that when he said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Basically, the meaning of both is that you can't ever expect that your plan is just going to go off flawlessly. You have to expect bumps and bruises along the way. Oracle is losing money daily and losing their value in the billions daily, it seems at this point. It looks like on the precipice of this new legal defeat that Paramount just had. And now we find out that if this goes one day over June 3rd, which I don't think this is going to be wrapped up by June 3rd, guys. I mean, I'm sorry. With the experiences I've had, I look at this and I just don't see this being done by June 3rd. It is possible. It's possible. I don't think it will, though. But now we'd find out that on June 4th, David Zaslav can just stand up and go, yeah, we're canceling the deal. And Paramount has to sign him a $7 billion check. And then, in my best impression of a white actor doing the character of Pooh on The Simpsons, David Zaslav will proclaim, "Thank you, come again." And he and Warner Brothers get to walk off laughing with $7 billion of Paramount's money and continue on business as normal and sell again, spin off some things. Who knows? This is an interesting wrinkle on this, which just kind of adds to the confusion about, or maybe gives some clarity as to why Paramount just waved the white flag on the TRO hearing and waved the flag on the injunction. The other interesting thing is this: we can't forget there are still other lawsuits going on from the WGA, from some of the Paramount shareholders. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Anyway, Sean, it's brought me to the place that I've changed my mind. Like, all the way up until this week, I've kind of been of the position that at some point Paramount and the states will make some compromises, they'll make some concessions, and at the end of the day, this deal does get done. I don't believe that anymore. I'm now of the persuasion that I think this thing is dead. I don't think even Paramount intends to see this thing through anymore, despite what they may be saying publicly. And like the Puck said, even if they do believe in what they're saying, the path to victory is very cluttered at this point. Anyway, Sean, you're hearing about this power that David Zaslav now has come June 4th to just cancel the deal and collect the money from Paramount. Does that surprise you, not surprise you? How are you feeling about the deal as a whole now, as far as its chances of coming to completion? What do you think?
Well, that segment you read in there, or that section you read, used the phrase unpleasant surprises. Right. And that's like, all this has been unpleasant surprises. You've had me on 4 times this month. Every single week we've talked about the new unpleasant surprise. And you think, you're going to go 9 more months, 10 more months without any more unpleasant surprises, when it feels like, the wagons are circling, you're surrounded, everyone is coming at you with a lawsuit trying to stop this thing from happening. And to me, that it's just felt like there's just too many battles to fight in too many directions, that it's not surprising that it feels like this thing's starting to fizzle out. Like maybe they're giving in on this deal. But when I hear that there's an option, if all he does is hold out till June 4th, then they walk away with $7 billion. Like, I don't even understand how some of these contracts get signed without working through more, like thinking through the obstacles that they would face in advance. I just thinking about numbers that big gives me anxiety. So I can't say I'm surprised, because it just has felt this whole time like it's just closing in more and more threats. And here we are at the inevitable of, like, it just looks really bad.
Rob, we now see that this is a new possibility here, which I'll tell you what, if 15 years from now, David Zaslav writes a memoir and says this was his plan all along, what a freaking stroke of genius that would be. Anyway, with this new wrinkle here, adding to with the ticking clocks and time running out, how are you feeling about the actual odds of this deal going through to completion at this point? Whether or not we all know how we feel about whether we hope it will or not.
Yeah.
What do you think about the realistic chances here?
I think the actual realistic chances are diminishing day by day. Like you, I used to think it was probably going to go through, that it was inevitable that it would go through. But now I just don't see what is the advantage. I don't understand. I would rather see Paramount become a powerhouse studio on its own. But it seems like, they want to do things to turn it into an entity that has some kind of political sway with the news and things like that, which I don't think it's working out the way they hoped it would. So sometimes, it's like Kenny Rogers said when he was singing The Gambler, you got to know when to fold them and walk away and know when to run, because at this point, and again, I'm not a financial analyst. I don't understand what I don't understand, but I don't get what the advantage is with this deal. I mean, ultimately, there's so many headaches with this deal, and I just don't understand. I mean, maybe they'll turn around and buy Lionsgate or something. That would make more sense, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I mean, look,
I
we're
don't know what
just
the odds are.
repeating the same thing we've said before, but at the risk of that, I'll say it again. What I would really love to see is just Paramount go, you know what? We had a vision. We went for it. Didn't work. We gave it our best shot. We can sleep well at night. And now we're going to turn all of our energy and attention into making Paramount the best damn studio it can be, putting out the best product we can put out, and elevating the status of Paramount in Hollywood. I would love to just see them do that. Instead, now we're going to have another year of their tension being completely divided, bleeding money, having interest on their already existing debts accumulating. I like part of the reason, like everybody thinks the reason I don't really want this deal to go through is just because I don't want Paramount owning Warner Brothers. And there is an element of that for sure. But the other part of it is I think it is in Paramount's best interest. I want Paramount to succeed. And I just think it's in their best interest if they just focus on Paramount and get that studio back to where it should be. I mean, that's just what I want them to do, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Apparently, with all the delays and now the upcoming trials, whenever that starts and could be stretched well into late 2027, David Zaslav has an ace up his sleeve. He gets to cancel the whole deal if he wants on June 4th. If he wants. He may not want to. But if he does, he can say, Dunzo, and $7 billion, please. I don't know. What do you think is going to happen here? Whatever you think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.